So when you implement AI into real estate or real estate tech or anything like that on the property management side or in anything on all the different things like the CRMs, the everything else, even just the little things of writing emails, contracts, all these things, man, I just see the cost savings little by little on all these other things. And then the amount of time you save, like the amount of
Yeah.
time with some of these softwares that are coming out and other that are or that were already out, but they've just now that there's an underlying AI component to it, they've just become better.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through property, investment, and business. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode on the pod today, Bricks and Bank with Steph. I'm your host as always, Stephanie. And today we have an amazing guest. He's a man of many quotes. He's doing a lot of things, and I'm just privileged to be on the other side of this pod with Adam Torres. Adam Torres is a podcast host. He's a co-founder, and I would say he's a co-CEO of Mission Matters Media. Hey, Adam, it's lovely to have you on the pod. Welcome again.
Stephanie, thank you so much. And by the way, I love the name of your show, Bricks and Bank. I was like, when I saw that one, I'm like, where'd she come up with that? I love some alliteration, number one, but number two is just so it's just so catchy. Bricks and Bank with Steph. Come on.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's really amazing. Yeah, I just came up with the idea because I'm like, yes, it's focused on real estate and investments, but at the end of the day, we have to take it to the bank, innit? If it's not making money, then it's not making sense.
There you go. It's all about the bank. Come on.
So, Adams, could you just do us a privilege of sharing your background or what makes Adam tick, and we can go from there?
Absolutely. So first thing first, one of my main reasons why I love to come on to shows is because my hope and my aim and my goal in coming on is that I want the people in the audience that are listening to this to hopefully be inspired to tell their own stories and to share their stories, because I feel that everyone needs to be heard and everybody deserves to be heard. And so my platform and our company is called Mission Matters. So missionmatters.com is the website, and we're a multimedia platform. We've been in business now going on 10 years. Stephanie, it's kind of crazy to believe, but 10 years. I've done over exactly. I've done over 6,000 interviews, and I host shows ranging everything from I have a money show, a business show, a tech show. People can find those very easily just by going to my Instagram, Ask Adam Torres, and clicking on the link, and you'll see all kinds of stuff on my link tree that you can check out the content, the shows, and everything else that we, a bunch of free giveaways like ebooks and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's just a little bit about my background and what I do. So I'm a podcaster, podcast host, cover some of the largest conferences around the world, and have the privilege and a lot of fun doing it.
Wow, Adam, I feel like you're competing with Joe Rogan at this point because you're doing things differently. You're putting a spin to everything. It's like you're taking the world by storm and you're doing it one podcast per time.
You know what? Me and my cousin, you're gonna laugh at this, Stephanie. So we had this conversation last night. Actually, I was at the gym. And I'm on the exercise bike. And when we were kids, like video games, like when you're really young playing video games. So I was the type of person, he reminds me, and we're grown men now, and he's still mad at me. But I'm the type of person that if I found a glitch in the game, like let's say it's a fighting game or something, and if you hit one button and like punch in the right spot, and you're going to like in Street Fighter or those old games, and you're gonna keep on like winning, even though you're only hitting one button, I will do that, and I will win every game, and I will use or football. I would use the same play on Tecmo Bowl football for the young kids out there listening. I know that's vintage. It was vintage in my time. I know it's okay, but I was the type. I will run the same play over and over if it's winning and if it's working. So me and him were laughing. He was mad at me, by the way. He's like, Adam, you used to do this. He remembered it like it was yesterday. He's like, Jerome Bettis up the middle. You do it every time. Then you like laugh, and he would throw the controller down and he'd be yelling at me. And I'm like, well, it worked. Well, and I wasn't cheating. It's not my fault the
Yeah.
game had a glitch. So I kind of see podcasting as that's almost like a glitch in the matrix. Like if you do it
Mm,
and if you execute on it long enough and if you're
yeah.
really working on your craft, if you don't quit, you can do some like really uncommon things. And what I find
Mm,
though is many people they start and they just don't follow through. But if you
yeah.
think about it, like I'm not planning for the next year. I'm planning for the next 20 years. I had another conversation. I was telling somebody, you know what? At what point in my life will I not want to at least have one conversation and record it? Probably for the rest of my life, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like with longevity, with healthcare going where it's going, with all the technology, I'm like, we're gonna have centenarian podcasters because I'm gonna be one for sure. I'm in. I'll be
Definitely.
100 years old
I'm seeing
still.
you up there. Like you're
Why
already
not?
up there.
Why would we not want to talk to somebody and why would we
Yeah.
not want to share and spread love? Like why not? Like so that's what I see it as, anybody can do it. It's not, you can talk if you can have a conversation, you can do it. That's what I say.
Amazing. Like it's so inspiring to see that many people are embracing the podcast one world because before now everyone was just doing things and it seemed as though it was just the pros on YouTube that were giving us insights. But now everyone, like you
Yeah.
said, everyone's voice deserves to be heard. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of experiences, there's a lot of resources out there, there's a lot of hacks people can share, and
Hmm.
especially in those wealth building game,
Yeah.
the name of the game is to win, be a winner, like you said. Win, find a strategy that works, keep at it,
And
keep
then just
working on
keep
it.
doing it and
Yeah.
don't even think about it. Like, you know what I'm gonna do today? Podcast. Guess what I'm gonna do tomorrow, Stephanie? Podcast. Guess what I'm gonna
Podcast.
do next week? Podcast.
Podcast. Yeah,
Guess what I'm gonna
and
do
it's
next
such an
month?
effective way
Podcast.
of relationship building because you get to meet people all across. Like now, I'm sitting across of you, and I'm in
Hmm.
London, UK, and you're over there in LA. So
Yeah.
it's
And
crazy.
my
That's the
And an
that's the
average
fastest way
morning,
to
Stephanie.
build.
So I'm talking to you in London right now. I'm in LA, like you said. I might be
Yeah,
talking to Brazil next. I might be talking to the Middle East after that. I might be talking to Europe. I might be somewhere else in
hmm
Europe later. I mean, I don't know. That's the beauty of it, to be able to travel around the world all from home.
exactly. I mean, the podcast, the world's a global village, and the podcast is the hack. We're hacking through it and building relationships as we go. So, yeah, I know you said you've interviewed over 6,000 people. So, what's one story that completely changed your perspective, and why did that stick with you?
So one of my favorite stories, and
Mm,
this is it's not what people normally expect. They normally expect like the big story, like the big CEO. Like I've had the CEO
mm,
of Reebok,
yeah.
of Lululemon. I've had like legendary CEOs on the show. But I also I'm not. It's not an elitist show. I go for the story. So I'm not looking at just how much money somebody's made or their status.
Yeah.
So one particular individual that she came on my show, she restored vintage guitars.
Wow.
And I know, and at first, what I was, I had this amazing conversation, and she was just one of those amazing people that was really into her craft. And what struck me to this day is, how at the end of the show, you maybe say, like, if somebody wants to learn more, if somebody wants to visit your
Yeah.
website, how do they do it? And she
Mm-hmm.
says, no, Adam, I don't want to leave information. And I'm like,
Why?
really? Like that's kind of odd. Like nobody,
Yeah.
yeah, why? And she says, and then I asked her again. I thought she was being polite. I'm like, no, no, I always let the guests leave it. If somebody wants to leave some information so that they can,
Mm-hmm.
my audience can follow up. And she's like, no, no, Adam, I don't want to. And I'm like, really? Then why'd you come on? I gotta ask. So I had to open up that can of worms because we're nosy, right? We're podcasters are nosy, right? We're like,
Yes.
why, how?
Why?
So, so I open up that can of worms and she says, well, Adam, if Elton John has to wait 3 years to get a guitar refurbished
Hmm.
by me, and if every major rock star you've ever heard of wants me to restore a guitar for them and they have to wait, I don't want your audience calling me. I don't have time. I'm good. So
Like,
for
don't
me,
clog my inbox, you people.
well, I mean, for me, my lesson or my takeaway, I don't know if this is what she meant, but this was my takeaway from it.
Hmm.
She was just saying she doesn't want to leave her information, but my takeaway is if you're really walking in your calling, if you're really walking in your craft
Hmm.
and executing on what you're supposed to be doing, people are going to line up for it. Not saying it's
Definitely.
going to be easy. I'm sure she didn't start there, right? Like
Yeah.
that wasn't the beginning of her career, restoring vintage guitars, but obviously she was there at that moment. So if you're doing what you need to do, then you should be pretty good. Looking at our show, just to get to the like kind of the beginning of this, when
Yeah.
when we started, no website, no nothing. I started with just a cell phone like you see right here, and I
Yeah.
had some headphones, and I was doing episodes, and in the beginning we had to basically beg people to come on the show because we didn't have any platform. And
Yeah.
so now we look at the growth, and now, 9 years later, over 30,000 people applied to come on the show last year. And
Wow.
I don't handle the
What?
day to day. The producers take care of all of that stuff. But yeah, and this year we'll probably have 40,000 people like that apply to
Amazing.
come on the show. So that's one of those things where it's like, but that's 10 years later.
Yeah.
That's 10
And it's like
years
10 years
later.
of consistent work, consistent grades, consistent pushing.
Yep. So
Yeah.
that's when I look at all of that, to me, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of what
Mm,
happens on if you're executing like every single day, and if you're doing what you need to be doing, and if you're not, and if you just understand, like, and then I look at the greats. So let's and when I think of the greats, I think of like the Johnny Carsons of the world. I think of, for the
mm,
young people listening that don't know what that is, it's okay. It's way before your time. It's actually before my time as well.
mm.
But it's the greats. It's the people that actually created these industries of entertainment. So
Yeah.
I look at all of those and I think to myself, he was on the air. Johnny Carson was on the air for like 30 years.
Okay.
So that's what it takes to be considered, and he was one of the greatest of all times. But that's what it is to be a great. Like, you got to be planning for 30 years of this game.
Mm.
Like, I hear people talk about like they're in, oh, I've been doing it for a month, I've been doing it for 6 months, and my followers haven't grown, or I only got this, that, and I'm like, man, I've been doing it for 10 years, and I don't even think I started yet. I've done over 6,000 interviews, and to say I just
Adam, you
got
can't be
started,
humble. You can't say you're not just
no,
getting started. Don't be
no, but
humble.
no, it's not humble. Put it in perspective of a 30-year
Well,
career.
sure
It's
though.
nothing.
Sure that.
It's like I'm a little baby crawling. It's not false. It's not me being humble. It's just saying what your goal is. If you want to be great,
Yeah.
you got to be thinking in decades, just like what you're
Mm.
talking about in investing, bricks and bank.
Yeah.
Come on, banks and bricks. Like, you got to come up with an idea. Doesn't mean you got it immediately. Like, it's
Yeah,
going to
true.
take some time to build that business or to build whatever you want. Like, that's just the
Yeah.
way it is.
Amazing. Because you talked about your company, Mission
Mhm.
Matters. At this point for you, over 10 years, it's more than just a brand, it's a movement. So when did you first realize that this mission was bigger than you?
The original company's name was actually Money Matters
Money
Top
matters.
Tips. And so when it transitioned to Mission Matters is when I realized it, because in the beginning it was a very it was almost more like to build me as like an influencer brand or something else, but specifically in the
Mm,
money niche. So specifically in the money niche. And so what I do is I was interviewing somebody one day, and I said, Adam, money matters, but mission matters too. And
yeah.
when I heard those words for the first time, it was like God just kind of
Mm,
hit me in the stomach. He's like, Adam,
Eureka.
oh, this one's for you. That was a
Yeah.
layup from God. He was sending me a blessing.
Mm,
And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't get it off my mind. So I talked to the other co-founder, Shirag, and I was like, hey, Shirag, like, what do you think about this? And the word name Mission Matters. So we talked about it for a little while, and then we just kind of left the conversation alone. Then he calls me like 2 weeks later, and he's like, Adam, what do you think about the name Mission Matters? And I'm like, Shirag, that is a great idea. And I just told him, hey, if we're gonna name the company or do a read, all of that, then
yeah.
we're gonna buy we're gonna need the domain. If we can't get the domain, we can't do it, period. Like,
True.
just period. So just for the size of our brand, I was like, can't do it. So I was like, but I know it's already taken, and if we got enough money in the bank, then we're gonna
Mm,
buy that domain and we're gonna do it. And so, long story short, I bought the domain, spent more money on a domain than I ever thought I would in my life. And then
mm,
within 9 days,
yeah.
we launched a completely new company. So we launched a new website, we launched a new podcast, we moved the one podcast into 8 podcasts, we launched our
Um,
new books. And just for context, and I want to highlight something here, is that
yeah.
to me, that was the calling part. Like God was calling me, and I felt it
Mm,
was one of those moments like you step and you'll be rewarded. And so,
yeah.
just to put this in perspective, we already had a brand built. I had already done over 1,500 interviews on
Oh,
that other brand, and now I'm being asked, in my opinion, to start from scratch, like start over,
on
have
a
faith,
new
and start over.
brand.
And so we did. New website. Oh, by the way, we'd already published books under the old brand. We had Money Matters books. We had, that was my first book, Money Matters, still on Amazon.
Mm,
And so like we stopped. We had to start over. All of our subscribers we lost. All of that stuff we lost. All the things that we'd already spent a couple years building, we lost.
yeah.
And to start brand new again with Mission Matters. And that's really when that's when the movement part of it, I believe, started to take off. And that's when for me it was really solid that this was supposed to be something way bigger, way more inclusive. There was going
Mm,
to be it was going to be a big platform. Many people were going to get to participate. It nothing against, a single podcaster or anything of that nature, or if that's what
yeah.
if somebody's building. I'm not saying there's anything against that, but I
Uh-huh.
just feel that my calling was to create a platform for other podcasters too. So we have a podcast network. We've launched over 200 shows
Wow.
outside of the shows that I host and that I manage, or that I so we've launched over 200 shows, and that part of it just keeps growing. So not only are we affecting people and being able to help them share their stories, but now we're empowering other people to
Yeah.
become podcast hosts so that they can help others share their stories as well. So that's my thought process on like paying all of that forward. So that was the calling part, and that was the movement part of it. It's really just been a big blessing from God.
Yeah. I like the way you put it, that it's been a blessing from God because yes, God gives us these visions, He gives us these ideas. But the thing people don't realize that He's also giving 10 million other people that idea. So if you don't act on it, someone else is gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you're grateful to God that you're able to act on the idea, and you're not just doing it for yourself. It's not just for you to make money, it's not just for you to make a name, it's for you to help others. That's the point of fulfillment. The fact
Mhm.
that you're able to replicate yourself or replicate your beliefs, your perspectives in another person that would help the next generation. And Mission Matters is, like you've explained, it's doing incredibly well. Which takes us to our next question. What kind of legacy do you hope Mission Matters would leave in like 30 years from now, 50 years from now? What sort of legacy are you guys going in for?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, for me personally, my
Hmm,
whole concept of legacy has really changed, and since I'd say October of last year.
yeah.
So before October of last year, I thought that, even creating podcasts or things like that, I thought, number one, it's fun. I love doing it. If not, I'll do
Yeah.
between 1,500 and 2,000 interviews this year. So just
What?
this year alone. So I do like 40 years of content every year. So just
Wow.
for perspective. So I love doing it. If I didn't, then no way I could be doing that. Put it that way. I go crazy, right?
Exactly.
So that's the first thing, is that I just love doing it, and I love the stories. I love it. I love all of that piece of it. But when it comes to legacy, unfortunately, or I don't even know if I lost my mother last October.
Oh, so
It
sorry
was a it
about
was a
that.
yeah, it was a crazy thing too. It was to a
Hmm.
tornado of all things, a tornado. So
Wow.
it was in Florida. There was 6 people that passed. Two of them were, one was my mom, one was her boyfriend. And
So sorry
so
about
when I
that.
lost her, thank you, I appreciate that. When I lost her at first, before that, I was thinking, money, like, okay, build big company, all these things, those things still matter, right? Help people. I was thinking about that too. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, like that's the whole goal, is to help others to amplify their stories and to share their stories and their missions. So I knew that there was a selfless component to that. And obviously, the better I'm doing at that, the more money I make, and everybody wins. Like, it was a great win-win like model for me to like to justify. But
Yeah.
when I lost my mom, it finally took it to me mentally, to the legacy standpoint. So
Hmm.
right now I can say that the thing that I value the most and that I cherish the most is the podcast interviews I did with my mom.
So-
Like I did interviews with her before she passed, and I happened to have done one. It was maybe like a month or so before she passed.
Wow.
And I have that interview. And so you think about money, you think about this, you think about other things, and what do I care most about? I care most about hearing her voice and seeing those interviews.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is I think about like some of the people now that I'm interviewing, and I'm like, wow, one day their kid is going to be looking at this and they might not be with us
Yeah.
anymore, or their grandkid might be listening to this and they're not. And this is already happening, by the way. So I had one person who's on the show and I saw it. And the reason I know is because there was a comment on one of our YouTube videos and they're like, that's my grandpa. So the grandpa is
Yeah.
YouTube famous, right? Because he's on there and the grandkid is like excited. Obviously, I only know it from the comment, but it's common. To me, it's kind of common sense. Like one day we're not going to be here. And the way that people in the past, our history was written for us based off of whoever had control of the media, the money, and
True.
the power. Now we
Hmm.
have the opportunity to participate in the writing of our own histories for
Yeah.
our moment in time in this life. So my mom, she was a social worker for 40 plus years. She dedicated her life to helping at-risk youth. She has an amazing legacy of people that she helped. She literally helped tens of thousands of people in her career, both
Hmm.
indirectly and directly for the most part. And thinking about that, to hear her words tell her story on my show, and I brought her on a couple times, so I have a couple of different things. To hear her words say it, I don't have kids yet, but I want to have kids one day. Like that's how they're going to meet their grandma.
Yeah.
So when you think about what you're doing right now, Stephanie, by taking the effort, the time, the
Yeah.
money, the resources, the mental capacity to come on a show with me right now, or to allow me, excuse me, to come onto your show,
Yeah.
we're now part of each other's legacy.
Exactly.
Like that's special. So even the complexion of even what the word legacy means to me and the impact of what we're doing, we're not just creating content, like we're part of each other's legacy. Our
Yeah.
families are going to look at this one day too. And so that intertwines all of us and it just reminds us that we're all human. So that's my goal, is to continue to preach and to spread the message that I just did. And that's why I'm so passionate about encouraging others to share their stories.
That's amazing. You couldn't overemphasize that fact that we need to share our stories. You know, the common saying that the richest place on earth is the grave. The
Mm,
grave is where you have a lot of
yeah.
unused talent, a lot of unutilized dreams, a lot of untold stories.
Hmm.
But we're taking the advantage right now and sharing our stories to the world, because so that no one shares a different light of what who we are in a
Yeah.
wrong perspective tomorrow. Just tell your story in. And you're doing a great job because you're not just telling your story, you're also raising people. You're working with thousands of entrepreneurs. So, having worked with that many people, having interviewed that many people, what's one common trait you've seen for those that actually make it successful? I know we hammered a lot on consistency, but what's one thing you just look at the person's craft and you're like, okay, this person's gonna make it. What's one thing that strikes for you?
So I'll tell you where I got this from. It's not my words, but when he said it, I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, he's right. And I say it slightly differently, but it wasn't until he came on my show that I got it. Do you know that? I don't know if they have this brand in London or if you've ever seen it or heard of it. Mrs. Fields Cookies.
No, we don't have it
Okay,
in
it's
London.
it's it's a big cookie chain. There, think of it as like the malls people go and shop at. At one point, there's like
Yeah.
thousands of these. So every time you
Wow.
walk into
Mhm.
one of these malls, you're gonna smell these cookies. It was thousands of these, and I think the brand goes back to like the 70s or 80s. Like it's a long brand,
Wow.
and they're still in malls, by the way. So think about it. Just think about a nice, friendly cookie company called Mrs. Fields.
Mm.
So Mr. Fields, the husband, comes on my show and I said, like, what kind of advice do you give to other entrepreneurs? And he says, you got to be kind of a masochist. You got to be okay with pain. You got to really
Mm.
be able to take pain. And I was like, what? This coming from the cookie guy who like ruining my dreams of like, I'm over here. I have great memories of these cookies as a kid eating them. And you're telling me you got to be able to take pain. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to throw it out there. I feel like, for me, you got to have a decent amount of pain tolerance. Like you got to
Mm.
be able to, because it's going to be a roller coaster. It's not for
Yeah.
everybody, and it shouldn't be. Like it's not for me. I was like, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. And the last book that I released, it's called Driven.
Okay.
I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't even know I was turning into an entrepreneur, to be honest. I thought I was just making money. I didn't even know what any of that meant. So
Oh,
it wasn't my dream. It wasn't a thought process. It was a complete accident for me, like accidental entrepreneur. So that being said, like out of everybody, like that when you really are at a certain level and you're talking to CEOs, you're talking to
mm,
anybody that's in any like high power position, like think
yeah.
about our presidents. Think about that. Like what is their pain tolerance? What's their
Mm,
emotional aptitude for a day of swinging
yeah.
when one day when you could start your morning with, potential war, and that's just to start the morning, and then you can
Yeah.
work your way up from there. What else is gonna go wrong, right? And in between that, how many things do you have to do or appearances and this and that? So on the smaller level for an entrepreneur, it's gotta be a lot of pain. You gotta be able to take
Mm,
it. Like, you gotta be ready for it, like pain, and then the other part I'd say is that you gotta have a so pain would be my number one. You gotta have the threshold for that. And then if I had to
yeah.
add a number two to it, I would say that you want to I don't know about the like vision part or all these other things. I don't really understand all that. All I will say is that there's a theme here that I've
Mm,
noticed, and the theme is that people have to be willing to at some point learn from their mistakes. At some point.
yeah.
Not in the beginning. They might be stubborn. Like I think about myself and like how many things I could have done better or faster or this or that, but I was either stubborn, or there was a lack of knowledge.
Mm,
At some point, you got to be okay. You got to get it right. Just
yeah.
period. You can't be okay with being wrong forever because then you just run out of money, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I like the way you put it. There's one thing my mentor typically says. It says, do not ever have an arrival mentality.
Mm,
Like, if there is no hunger for you to grow or keep pushing or keep getting better, you're not
yeah.
going to make it. You're just going to be phased away. Look at the case of Skype and Zoom.
Mm.
Pre-COVID, Skype was the in thing for video conferencing. I mean, we could have been using Skype by now in hosting this
Oh,
podcast, but they didn't level up. They didn't get better. They didn't follow the trend. And the
which
one
is
is talking about,
insane because they were so
yeah,
far ahead,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
They were so far ahead. We're using I don't
And
understand it,
it
but
just puts so much sense to what we're talking about consistency because you never can tell. Just keep putting in the work. You never can tell what big break or what circumstance would make
mm,
everything just worth it. And yes, we constantly say if you life is not a straight line, there are ups and downs. That's what makes it a full life. So how you put yourself together, how you appreciate your low moments and how you appreciate the high moments is what makes who you are essentially. So
hmm
it's just refreshing. I think I can sit down and listen to you all day. You're just so refreshing.
that's
You
called
have
the
such
podcast.
refresh.
That's my point,
That
and
is
that's
what
why
you
we do
do.
podcasts. You can no because you can listen all day. We got a catalog of 6,000 episodes. Everybody listening, then
Exactly.
just push play. It's fine.
So what do you say to someone who thinks they don't have a story worth telling? How do you approach people? Because I mean, one of part of your job is like
Yeah,
helping people project their stories out there. But some
yeah.
people feel like, oh, they don't really have their lives are not incredible. So what's that to share?
Well, the first thing I like to say on that is that even though somebody may look at this and say, okay, Adam's been doing this a long time, he has an audience, he's polished. The bottom line is somebody just might not like my voice. They might not like how
Mm,
I look. They might not like how I talk. They might not, whatever. So the point is that they may like the way you do. They may like
mm,
that. Like there's so much audience out there. There's so
yeah.
much audience for people that want to listen to stuff. Some people like so it's not like who's better, who's worse, it's just do you want to be in the game?
Mm,
Like, do you want to be in the game? Like, how are you going to win if you're not even playing? Like, and
true.
if it's in this, and if you're not playing the game of telling your story in any way, by the way, you don't have to be a podcaster. You don't have to write a blog, whatever way you choose. Some people want to write. You might have a blog, a Substack. You might have something
Mm,
else, a newsletter. You might do something else. You might have a YouTube channel. You might have, I mean, but either way, if you're not participating at this point, the game of life, a big part of it is having some form of digital presence.
Sure.
And if you're gonna play and if you're going to not have some form of digital presence, well, then
Mm.
you're probably not listening to this right now. But if you are and you don't have any form of digital presence, that's like equivalent to just saying that's almost to me like saying, okay, there's this thing that's been invented. It's called writing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I'm not gonna write. I don't want to write.
Same,
No.
guilty as charged. I
I
can't
I don't wanna
do
write,
it.
like, I mean, I'm talking way back when, like, you know what I mean? Like, when there was
Yeah.
a stone tablet or on the side of the wall or whatever, I mean, like, way back when, like, I don't wanna write, I don't wanna like, this is the technology of the day. If you don't like,
Yeah.
how like, participate. It doesn't mean you have to be on social media all the time, doesn't mean you have to do anything, right? But if you're not sharing and documenting your story, somebody else will do it for you.
Mm.
You don't participate, that says a lot, that says a lot.
So I know you started your career in finance. How did that transition go for you from managing 500 million in clients' wealth to amplifying voices? What was the aha moment that made you like, okay, I'm done with counting pennies. I want to tell my
Yeah.
story.
So I had at this point in time I still had two I had another company. It was a finance company that I
Okay.
managed and that I ran. It was an RIA. It's just an investment firm in the United States.
Mm.
It's a type of investment company. And then I had this small little media company on the side where it was just to promote my first book really. And I remember I was moving into a new place and I had this moment where the both of the businesses were kind of starting to grow. And
Mm.
I'm not Elon Musk. I can only focus on one thing.
For
I
time,
can
yeah.
only focus on one thing. There's other entrepreneurs out there that can do a lot of different things. They can have a lot of businesses and this and that. If that's you, great. Congratulations. I can't do that. Like I can do one thing well. Period.
Yeah.
So going back to the beginning of the conversation when I said if I'm playing a video game and I got to hit one button to win, I'll hit that button for 8 hours straight and I'll
Right.
win for 8 hours straight. I can only do one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why podcasting works for me. It's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had my two businesses there, and one day I'm about to go to sleep, and I just moved into a new place, and I have everything unpacked, and I except for my degrees and my like all my certificates. So in the United
Oh,
States, you have things called like the Series 7, 6,
yeah.
63. There are all these investment licenses. So I had them all, and I had them framed, and that's what you would normally hang up because it's kind of like it's your credentials. It just shows
Yeah.
you some of your work. So I had those laying on the floor still, and I'm about to go to bed. I'm tired. I had to hammer out the nails, everything. Like I was like, in the morning I'll hang these, whatever. So I'm about to go to bed, and I'm feeling kind of frustrated, and so I'm just saying a prayer, and I'm like, all right, God, like you got to tell me, like both of these things are growing. Like, what am I supposed to do? I said, I'm not, and I remember it so clearly. I'm telling you stuff like it was yesterday. I would say something. I said, I'm not asking you to part the Red Sea for me or anything. Like, I don't need any type of crazy miracle. I remember
Yeah.
saying that. So then I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning my feet, go off the side of the bed. I put them down and I'm standing in water. And I'm
Wow.
like, I think I'm sleeping because I still remember the first thing I remember in my head is I tell God, like, I'm not trying to part you don't have to part the Red Sea for me. Like, I just need a sign. Like, I need something.
Mm.
So again, I'm standing in water and then I'm like, this is a weird dream. So then I lay back down and like, I'm going to go back to sleep and I'm like, or try to wake myself up, but my feet are still wet. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not dreaming. I'm like, I'm not dreaming. And
Better get up.
so then I get back up and I'm standing in water
Yeah.
and I turn on the light and I
Mm.
can see all of the certificates and all that stuff are all ruined.
Oh.
They're all ruined. They're all in water. So I'm like, all right, God, I guess I got my sign. But I did say you didn't have to part the Red Sea. Did you really have this? So, so,
He
so,
just drenched you in it.
so where did the water come from? The listeners are probably like, oh, this guy's crazy. No, where did the water come from?
Yeah.
A water heater broke in the
Oh.
downstairs and it had water all over the place. And so that
Mm.
was my sign. And so at that moment, I was like, all right, God, I got it. No, I'm good. So don't worry. So I took the certificates. I literally right that moment, they were all ruined anyway. I
Mm.
threw them in the trash on the side of
Oh
the house and I
no.
took a picture of it. And I said, okay, I guess that part of my life is done. Let me figure out this next part. And that's after a 14-year career. So I think that's
Wow.
why God was being a little dramatic with his sign. I'm like, all right, I got it. I got it. Don't be now I gotta go clean up all this water. You could have just like, I don't know, done something less.
Oh.
But that's the way me and God work. Like he gets my attention when he needs it. He knows I'm
Hmm.
slow.
Wow, that's really inspiring. And but before then, were there nudges? Did you get nudges from God to do it? Or that was just
They were working. They
yeah.
were both working. So that was what I was torn by was like, what do
Mm,
I like? I don't when I work with my clients, like that's my focus. But then also
yeah,
like you can't tell clients, yeah, I'll call you back, but I gotta do
yeah.
these 5 podcast interviews. What? Like I'm managing your money. I'm trusting you with my life and my future. It's different. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like I'm making them ice cream, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
different. So I couldn't do that even if they would have allowed me to. So that's where I decided to eventually say, after that, probably within a month of that, I was full time in media. And that
Wow.
other chapter of my life had been closed. And then this new one had been open.
New and fresh chapter.
Mhm.
So the new and fresh chapter has seen you interviewing countless of professionals, and in focus now would be real estate professionals. So
Mhm.
what would you say is a trend or insight you've heard recently that makes you think the industry isn't paying attention to
That it's
within the
not paying attention to? Say it again.
yeah, like what's one trend you think the real estate industry isn't paying attention to right now over the course of your interview with professionals and
So
realtors and
I'll tell you,
investors?
I'll give you one a little bit different that's going to be
Okay.
specifically for investors out there, which I think is just
Okay.
really, maybe you've heard this angle on this. I don't think so though, because I don't hear enough people talking about it. Normally they're
Mm,
going directly into like, okay, where are interest rates? What's going to happen next with this? What's happening with this? But if you think about it, real estate investing, especially from the property owner standpoint, when you think about it's about, how much money can you bring in versus how much
yeah.
is going out at the very least. And so what I find very interesting is the real estate tech that's coming out and some of these softwares and the AI that's
Mm,
being implemented in them to help
yeah.
managing a portfolio become less of a burden, whether it's from the accounting administrative side, whether it's from the operations side of like actually the property management side of actually dealing with complaints or dealing with issues with with your tenants, all of those. I find that so highly fascinating because if you think about implementing AI into any industry, what you're
Yeah.
doing is you're going to be able to maybe do some of the exact same or more of what you're doing in terms of the work with possibly the same or less staff. So that's
Yeah,
cost.
true.
That's
That's true. Yeah.
cost. So what happens is it's cost, it's time, like it's freeing up bandwidth for higher functioning activities.
Yeah.
So when you implement AI into real estate or real estate tech or anything like that on the property management side or in anything on all the different things like the
Mm,
CRMs, the everything else, even just the little things of writing emails, contracts, all these things, man, I just see the cost savings little by little on all these other things. And then the amount of time you save, like the amount of
yeah.
time with some of these softwares that are coming out and other that are or that were already out, but they've just now that there's an underlying AI component to it, they've just become better. And so that excites me because that's good. If you can get your expenses down like that, if you can be more accurate as well, like
Yeah.
that becomes like to where myself, so my own real estate history. I remember when I bought my first like fourplex, and I'm living in one of the units, and then the other units I'm renting them out. I'm living for free. This is like my early teens, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great. Then I remember when as you scale that up and as you start buying more things, like it gets a little bit more complicated. So I'm like, and now you look at some of these softwares and I'm like, man, if this had existed even back then, like how much more could I have done? Right.
True.
Like with less
Mm,
expense, which means what? More money in my pocket, which means
mm-hmm.
what? More money to potentially invest. So I feel like the industry as a whole, like just where the tech side of it is going, and then the data side of it, especially for valuations and for other things like
Yeah.
that, like it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
Yeah, I know one of my guests in my podcast, in one of my previous episodes, he talked about real estate tokenization. This is
Mm.
essentially making use of blockchain to
Yeah.
manage to, he's just changing the game. And that's essentially what his company does. So when you talked about how leveraging AI in the real
Hmm.
estate space, and that is what a lot of people are not paying attention to. Many people are
Yeah.
just using ChatGPT to ask, "Oh, where do I get money from? Where do I get milk from today?" It's much more than that. You can actually train your AI
Yeah.
to do, and the possibilities are endless.
Mm.
So I like the fact that you raised that concern that people are not paying attention to. And I hope our listeners would start paying attention to it, because many of our listeners are first time real estate investors or seasoned real estate professionals. So
Yeah.
hopefully this insights.
The tokenization thing is interesting, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it
one
is.
of our clients that we launched a show for, it's his name's Johnny Zhang, and people can look
Mm.
him up on Instagram, and that's what he does. And that's a big piece of his business is
Oh,
tokenization. And it's interesting because it's democratizing real estate ownership for
yes.
investors. It's allowing you to own a piece of real estate without maybe some of the things you had to do in the past. I think it's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing idea. I don't know how long it takes to catch on to be like mainstream, you know what I mean? To where everybody does it, but
Yeah.
you would have to think that at some point it would, especially with the next generation who's going to grow
Mm-hmm.
up understanding that, because that's just like we go to the bank and we have like a debit card.
Yeah.
They already understand the other sides of sending money without having an intermediary like a bank.
Yeah. So let's talk about your personal experience in podcasting.
Mhm.
How has podcasting elevated your personal brand and business, especially with regards to real estate? How would you marry the two? I know it's a form, most people see
Mhm.
podcasting as a form of publicity,
Mm.
but how do you think it elevates someone's personal brand?
Well, I'll give you two different sides of this, and I'll also apply it directly to real estate because it does
Okay.
apply. So
Mm,
when we talk about that networking component, I'll say this: initial podcasting is what, and having these conversations with individuals like yourself, that's completely what's built this company. So when I think
mm,
about it, like even the fact that so why did we launch a podcast agency where we help other people launch podcasts? The reason is because during COVID, normally I was traveling a lot, going to conferences and covering conferences, and that was a big part of my schedule. During
yeah.
COVID, everything shut down. And one of our clients or one of the people that were on the show, they're like, "Hey, I want to launch a podcast too. I'm sitting, can you help me?" And I'm like, "No." And then I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. We've never launched a podcast for other people, really, only a couple
Yeah.
small ones, but it wasn't like a part of our big business model." And I'm like, "Yeah, we got some bandwidth. We can do that." And
Mm,
so that's how we got our first a couple of clients. And then, we launched over 200 shows now since. And
wow.
that's really people just coming on the podcast saying, "Hey, Adam, I like what you do. Like, how do I do it? How do I launch a show?" And that's how it worked. And so it's completely, I mean, everything I think about like that I've gotten in the last 10 years, I would say it all stems back from a podcast. Somebody that was on the show,
Mm,
somebody who knew somebody that was on the show, somebody who recognized me, somebody who listened and I didn't know, and we were at an event, like friendships,
yeah.
relationships, business relationships. I mean, it all for me, it all stems back to the podcast. Like everything, my social life all goes back to the podcast, just because I'm only good at one good thing. So if you didn't find me through the podcast, we probably didn't talk.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, you're a celebrity already. You should be going out with bodyguards and so we don't kidnap you.
No, no, we ain't doing all that. I don't leave. It's fine.
So I know real estate is such a relationship driven industry.
Mhm.
There's a lot of networking and whatnot. So what would you say in your experience? What would you say how would you say storytelling has played a big part in this industry
Mm,
in terms of helping brokers and agents
yeah.
stand out in this crowded and very saturated real estate market?
Yeah, I'll give you everybody a show to go listen to. The
Mm,
podcast host's name is Jose Tejada, and it's called Hispanic Wealth Matters. And I'll tell you, he's a broker. He
mm,
funds loans, and the interesting thing about this is when he originally started working with us, and he's on our podcast network. He does great work. It's a great show. And I told him, well, he's like, well, if I want to do more deals, I want to meet more people. What do I do? I said, well, start interviewing influential people in your space that you want to work with. like
Mm.
realtors or commercial lenders, or some other people that you can network with. So I've seen, and he's done it extremely successful. He's grown a big platform and he's gotten tons of business through that
Wow.
platform. And you don't have to
Yeah.
ask. You just start bringing people on. They know you're leading with value by bringing
Mm-hmm.
somebody on your show. So it's win-win. That's one example. And then there's another one, Smart Investing, I think off the top of my name is what it's called. And that individual,
Mm.
he runs a big fund and a real estate fund, and he interviews accredited investors about their experiences investing in real estate. And so what do you think
Mm.
happens? He gets more investors from it.
Yeah.
You bring on, if you need real estate investors and you're doing real estate, maybe you do a show on real estate investing and invite on real estate investors.
Yeah. It makes it makes
It's
sense,
not
and it's a
rocket science. It's not
yeah.
rocket science. Like, it's not like, this isn't some, let me tell you a secret about this, like, really smart. I'm not Gary V. I don't have any really smart strategies for you. I just got regular stuff that works.
Yeah, I mean, it makes more sense, and it's a more proactive approach than just posting on Instagram, because most people don't really, people just look at the facade on Instagram. They're not necessarily looking to connect, so to
Yeah.
speak. Everybody's just sizing up the next person.
Hmm.
That's my personal bias. But on the podcast, there is this drive for you to take action. And I
Hmm.
would definitely want to link the podcast you mentioned on the description so that the audience can go back and listen to these people, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we network.
Hmm.
It's a more targeted approach to reaching out to people than just posting on
And
Instagram
the
and saying, "Oh,
learning
I do
too.
this."
And you get to learn is the best part. So you might have a real
Yeah,
estate investor that comes on that's been doing it for 30 years. Maybe you've been doing it for 5 years or 10
exactly.
years. I
Like
mean,
if not for podcasts, I would never have heard anything called real estate tokenization. I
yeah.
would never have considered that there's a relationship between blockchain and real estate. It would never have crossed my mind.
Yeah. But then once you learn it, you can't unknow what you know. You're like,
Exactly.
oh, that makes so much sense.
Hmm.
And now for all of the other people that don't know, you're that much further ahead of them.
True. So let's say one final question. If you could build your dream real estate empire, what would it look like, and how would you help shape the future of the industry?
Oh, that's great. You know what? I know what I do have to say is that it's kind of funny. I learned this the other day. I didn't know. My cousin sends me this picture and he's like, "Hey, check this out." And it's of this, like, I think it's called Porsche Towers in Miami, and it has it's
Mm,
like basically it's I thought it was just them doing some branding, and so they put it on there, but no, apparently the elevators, you ride the elevators up and your car goes with you. So so
what?
your car is, like, you might be on the 20th floor, whatever. Your car is right there. It parks behind your kitchen, and then you walk into your penthouse or your house. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I was like, what happens if we had like some type of mix with podcasting or something else, like some type of either
Mm,
hotel chain or some type of, it could be just something to where it's for creators though. Not just, it
yeah.
doesn't have to be podcasters only, but like creators. So what if there was some living environments in the big cities to where, think of it as there, people live, and instead of it being, how they have the live work play model for like shopping and like
Oh
eating,
yeah.
and then
I know
and
about
then
that one.
like that kind of commercial. Well, what happens if we add a layer to that, that's like
Mm,
create, so all the studios are on site too. So you have real
yeah.
studio facilities to be able to record, to be able to whatever you need to do, and it's all there, and that's all part of your package of living in that community. Like, that's what I think would be super interesting for me.
Do you know what? What you just said might have crossed the mind of like an architect, someone that is already thinking of doing it or haven't done it yet. But the fact that they're listening to this podcast the person will just chat you up tomorrow, like, Adam, I can key into your dream. Let's view this. And that's the
Let's
power of
do it.
podcasting, really.
Exactly. And
Because
that's what I wish I had. It'd be so
yeah,
cool.
because it's not just you have the vision for it. Someone else would put that vision into paper, like basically an architect drawing out the plan, mapping out everything. And it takes another set of civil engineers to bring that
Hmm.
into life. So it's a whole project. Go for it.
I like it. I like it. You're giving me work. That's what I always do to my guests. I knew you were good, Stephanie. I knew you were good in the beginning, but you're great. I don't even like. I'm always giving work. Go do some work.
Thank you so much for that. So we're moving on to the second segment of the show. It's called the firecracker segment. So it's just
Snap.
I shoot at you, you shoot at me right back. Just
Okay.
no much thinking. Just let me know what first thing that comes to your mind.
Yep.
So you've helped thousands of people share their stories. What's one story, the one story you haven't told yet, but you need to?
I thought it was really interesting that
Mm,
that I had Bob Mears on the show, and that was the former CEO of Reebok, of Lululemon. Like he's done some
nice.
amazing things, and he took them from like, I don't know, 15 million to like billions of dollars.
Mm,
And I found it very interesting that in his retirement, he's started another company, and this company is based on reusable single-use plastic cups. Like he's going after that
mm,
market, and he's really dedicated his life to a version of saving the planet at that point. Like in terms of so he tied his love for the planet, his love for sustainability to his venture that he was working on when I interviewed him. And I thought about it, and I'm like, man, a guy like that doesn't have to work. A guy like that doesn't have to do anything. He could be on any
yeah,
board. He could live in retirement very nice. He already lives very nice, I'm sure.
exactly.
And yet he chooses to start thinking like outside of himself and to think about like single-use plastic cups and what that's doing to our environment and if there's a better way. And so for me, that has kind of framed my thought process of like, okay, we've been given all these resources, and now what are
Yeah.
we doing as well with the environment? So that layer of environment is, I'm still trying to figure it out. We do have a Mission Matters forest that we have, that
Mm,
it's one of those things that you plant trees and all of that. So we have that,
okay,
but
yeah, that
I
makes
just feel like
sense.
I feel like we could be doing more. So that's my like one story I wanted to share that I haven't.
Okay. Just in the same light, I know, I don't know how much of your audience or how much of the people you've interviewed are from outside of the US, because I saw an invention from the Japanese side. So these are also single-use reusable cups. So
Mm.
they were basically shaped like wafers. It's actually made with wafers. So you use the wafers are shaped in a cup form, so you can use it to get your coffee. And after taking your coffee, you can just chew on the wafer like you have the ice cream cone, something like that. It's also a sustainable way. That way, there's no trash. You can just chew on
That
it like a
sounds like
biscuit
more
afterwards.
calories to me, Stephanie. I don't know. I'm not wasting my dang calories on some wafer. You better get that out of my face. I'm gonna
I'm
drink
just,
my 0-calorie coffee. I'm gonna save my calories for something else later. I don't want no stinking
oh
wafer.
my goodness.
You said I get to fire back. Come on, I ain't got too many. I got only so
No,
many
I'm just
calories to
saying
spend in a
you
day.
can explore the Japanese
Nah, I don't
side.
want to. Nah, I'm good. They can keep that. They ain't counting calories.
All right. So the next question: what's one bold move someone can make today to start building a legacy that matters?
Start a podcast, 100%. Like do it. Like my first show, I started with my cell phone. I didn't have any fancy mics. I didn't have anything else.
Hmm.
I did my first 300 episodes. I didn't even edit. I
Oh,
just put them up. I just uploaded them. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I was like, all right, so I recorded it, upload. Okay, I think I did a podcast. We built an audience from that.
yeah,
So like start a podcast. Like that's your legacy right there. I did 300 episodes in like a month. And I didn't even edit them. I was just like, I was calling people. First person I ever interviewed, they're still up there. The first person I ever interviewed was the other co-founder. I'm like, you said I had to start a podcast. You're my first
yeah.
guest. That was a recorded phone call uploaded. It probably didn't even
Wow.
consider it a podcast, but hey, got downloads, built an audience. Start a
Mm.
podcast.
So are these still on Spotify or
They
YouTube?
are. They're under Spotify and all of that. They're under the
Okay,
old brand though. So if you Google Adam, or if you put Adam Torres Money Matters or Money
okay,
Matters Top Tips, then you'll see the old show. There's still like 1,500 episodes out there of that.
okay. All right, that's perfect. So the last question, in one sentence, what does mission matters mean to you right now?
The ability to help amplify stories for others.
That's like the best response ever. You don't have to say much. We got it. Amplifying the
Said one
response.
sentence. I had you.
Amazing. So, Adam, how can we reach you? Because this has been an amazing episode, and a lot of our audience would want to hunt you down. So how can we reach you?
All good.
Socials.
Connect with me on Instagram, ask
Mm-hmm.
Adam Torres, send me a
Yeah.
DM, let me know that you heard me on Stephanie's show. Had a lot of fun and loved it. And I also want to hear what other people are working on. So shoot me a DM on Instagram and let's talk about what you're working on. Love to hear what people are doing. And again, that's Ask Adam Torres. And there's a link in my bio that leads to it's a link tree that has anything you want on there. There's going to be all the newsletter, some free ebooks. There's a bunch of free things that we give away. I think we give away more free content than any other company on the planet of our size,
Definitely.
like period.
Yeah, that's part of the mission. You're helping people. It's not
Mm.
just to make profits, it's to make a difference in people's lives. And we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Adam. It's been a joyful moment having you on the pod today. And I'll definitely get all the links so that I can
Mhm.
link them in the description.
Thank
Yes.
you, Stephanie, for having me on. I appreciate it so much. And again, love the name of that show. Come on.
So, guys, that wraps up another episode of the Bricks and Bank podcast. It's been wonderful having Adam Torres on the show, and we'll catch you right on the next episode. Till then, let's continue to turn knowledge into action and bricks into bank. Cheers.
Yeah.